Um, we have with us two employers. We have Tyler from Brooksource and Taylor from Fast Enterprise. So we're going to turn it right over to them. I really want to encourage you all to ask questions. Kelsey and I have been working, and I'm Rose, if you don't know me, and this is Kelsey. If you don't know Kelsey, she's the career coach in CSD. We've been working with Tyler and Taylor for a long time now. They're in our group of favored employers, and we want to thank them for joining us today. They want to answer your questions. So if you want to bring your camera on and ask questions, great. If you'd prefer to chat, we'll make sure that we communicate those questions to them. And just as an FYI, any question you have, probably everybody else has it too. So feel free to ask questions. Tyler, we'll start with you and then turn it over to Taylor.
Awesome. Rose and Kelsey, thank you again for having us. I really appreciate it. So guys, my name is Tyler Sewell. I'm actually a Temple alum. I graduated from Temple 2016, so go Owls. So I work for a company called Brooksource. We're an IT consulting company here in Philadelphia. We're based in the Midwest. We're actually founded in Indianapolis, but we serve a lot of our Philadelphia clients. So really what we do, we're a consultant-based company. So we help individuals like yourself, recent graduates, find opportunity to roll with our Fortune 500 clients that we work with. So some of the clients that we work with are some common names that you guys probably worked with yourselves, such as like Comcast, Independence Blue Cross, AmeriHealth Administrators, Thomas Jefferson Hospital, and we recruit on a variety of different roles, all within the STEM field as well, and really kind of help you get your foot in the door. Within our program, we have a full entry-level hiring model, which I specialize in. So I work with only recent graduates. So we really help them to transition from the classroom to the office setting and provide things such as like technical development, professional development training, and almost that career coach with you every step of the way, from the actual interview phase and making sure you're all set and ready to go for your interview to actually getting your foot in the door with this in the client side when we're actually working there as well. So again, that's a little overview of my company.
Sure. And then I'll kind of jump in and give you a quick overview of what Fast Enterprise does. So Fast Enterprise is a software development and consulting company. We put software in strictly for government agencies. We do those government agencies with 3 software solutions. So we have a tax software, unemployment insurance software, and then we have a driver and vehicle software. So we're really just working with those government agencies, updating their out-of-date software so that everything runs a lot more efficiently. We are currently hiring, and just kind of want to list off some of the positions that we are actively hiring for at this time. Definitely too would encourage you to go to our website and kind of check out those positions as well. But the biggest one that we are hiring for at this time is our implementation consultant role. And 9% of our employees at Fast Enterprises are actually implementation consultants. And that implementation consultant role is really going to be that good split. Not necessarily going to need to come in with that computer science background, but we are going to want you to come in with some type of technical background. You're going to have a good split. So it's going to be days where you're in the computer, you're developing and you're configuring the system. And then there's also going to be days where you might not touch that computer. And that's where consulting aspect really comes into play. Talking to our client face-to-face, gathering any needs that they may have, doing any demos in the system, so showing the client what was built out so far, and receiving any feedback that they may have for you, and then taking that feedback and taking those needs, and then really going back and developing the system. Like I said, though, there's not just technical roles. We do have what we call a training coordinator role. And that training coordinator is really going to help the end users learn the system so that when the system does go live, all of our users are aware how the system works and are able to do their normal functions in the system. So that's kind of a quick overview. Did also want to add in that we do relocate all of our employees. So you would be relocated, and you would be relocated on average every 2 to 3 years. So our headquarters is in Centennial, Colorado. So you would go there for training for 2.5 weeks. And then after that 2.5 weeks is when we would send you to the project site that would be your final project site for those. And after that, you would be then moved from site to site. The reason that you do get moved is that we're moving you because we want you to be face-to-face with the clients so that you're not having to travel every single week like the typical consulting company has you do. So instead, you're getting moved to that location, and then you're getting to a new location on average every 2 to 3 years. But yeah, that's a kind of a quick overview of what Fast Enterprise does and what we have available currently.
So Taylor, when I heard unemployment software, my first thought was, I don't know whether you've heard, but in New Jersey, they're now looking for COBOL programmers to fix 50 and 60-year-old software.
Yeah, well,
I was like, all my skills are still in need.
Yeah. In 2008, when it went down, we got a lot of unemployment
Software sales.
They realized like, oh my gosh, we need to upgrade. So we're kind of expecting that going forward, that a lot of people are going to be realizing that they need to upgrade their unemployment software.
I can see that coming.
Yeah.
Tyler, you do a lot of virtual interviews with students, correct?
Yeah, all of our first round interviews are all virtual.
Okay, so tell students a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly that you've seen.
Yeah, great question, or great point, Rose. So when virtual interviews, I think really the best students I see are the ones that come kind of really prepared and set up their almost virtual room. I think with virtual interviews, it is easy enough to get super distracted, things going on in the background. But really what I see the best students are the ones that kind of warn their roommates, warn their parents, like, hey, I have a virtual interview. Can I just have this room for like the next 30 minutes to an hour? So there's no distractions coming in and out. I've been in interviews that I see their roommate shirtless go across the screen, and not saying that's a huge make or break, but that is definitely a distraction. Instead of focusing on the candidate or the person I'm interviewing, I'm now focused on like, okay, who's that guy that just randomly went across the interview? So it's really important just to kind of get that environment set up. Another thing that I saw beneficial when it comes to virtual interviews is sending over projects and any examples via email beforehand. I know with the computer science and information technology students, they put you through an amazing capstone product that I'm really impressed at. So I get really impressed with the students who send me this and be like, hey, I would love to touch upon this during our interview. It's a product I've been working really hard on. So, I mean, that's a pretty good advice or big advice for virtual interviews.
Great. Taylor, how about a little bit from you? What good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of expanding on what Tyler said, we definitely encourage you to have that room set up that's kind of designated for the interview space, so no distractions. We know everyone's at home now and usually working from home, so people have dogs, noisy neighbors, anything along those, roommates that may come in to cause that distraction. So making sure that everyone is aware and you set that up, so it just kind of gets you in the headspace that you know that you're in an interview setting. Definitely is helpful. The other thing that we have kind of been talking about is to make sure and be aware that you are on camera the entire time. So a lot of people tend to forget or distracted by seeing themselves on camera. So definitely one of our tips that we've said is if you're getting too focused and looking at yourself as the interview is going on, there's Post-it notes. So just take a Post-it note and cover your own face so you can see what you're looking like as you're answering those questions. And kind of just focus on what the interviewer themselves are asking. In a virtual interview, you're not going to see what you look like. So there's no reason that you need to see it just because it is virtual. A thing that we've also been telling candidates is to keep treating it like it is an interview. So be prepared. You should still be on time. You should still be doing your research. You should be dressing professionally. All things that you would have been doing for an in-person interview, make sure you're still doing them for a virtual interview as well. It's going to come off if you're unprepared or if you didn't do your research. They're going to know. Like I said, you are on camera, so obviously dress for the part, and obviously it's going to boost your confidence and you're going to be ready for it.
Great. Any questions from our students that have joined us today? Here we have two great experts here, and we want to make sure we answer questions. We have other topics we can cover, but want to open it up to you guys first. You can chat the questions. Yeah, Surya.
Yes, my name is Surya, and I have a question for Kreider, because I am actually a very well, I got a lot of experience. That's the first thing. But as I've worked as a project manager and sometimes as a consultant. So is there any way, like I'm seeing, I think perhaps Tyler Sewell said that, most of them are from the, in the beginning positions. No, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at a position wherein I got, say, around 15 to 20 years, 10 years in finance, 15 years in finance, and then in banking, and then now another 10 years in IT. So is there anything where I can look for from any of you, it's for Tyler as well as Kreider, both of them, whichever way, please let me know what is the situation now.
Yeah, great point, and thanks for asking the question as well. From the Brooksource standpoint, we do recruit in a wide variety of different. We post all of our positions on our LinkedIn website, or on LinkedIn, as well as our Brooksource website. So definitely check there first if we're actively looking. I was talking to Rose before, and as you guys may know, the job market is really up in the air right now, but I don't think that would hinder you that from the job search. We speak to a lot of our managers directly. Unfortunately, they are putting a little bit hiring freeze right now, but a lot of them still have the need and the openings to really find that next generation of talent, to find someone. So a lot of them are still reviewing applications, even though they can't interview at the moment. As soon as that freeze is lifted, hopefully the next month or two, that's when those interviewing. So biggest thing is continue to apply for different positions. Don't worry about if you don't hear back right away. It's just the way the environment is right now. But as soon as everything is good to go again, we'll see a big influx of different things from different positions for my company, as well as most companies out there, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just
Tyler, you're hiring, right? Yeah, I was going to say, Tyler, you are hiring.
Yep. So currently we are looking for different software. Yeah. So
and Taylor too.
Software engineers. Yeah. So we're hiring.
And Taylor, you're hiring as well.
Correct. Yeah. So we're currently hiring. Do like to be very upfront that a lot of our positions that we do hire for are entry-level positions. But by any means, if you're looking at a position and you're interested in it, go and apply. We definitely don't. We're not going to take you out of the drawing just because you're not a fresh graduate and you have that experience. If you apply and obviously you have that experience, great. Just like to be upfront and let you know that a lot of our positions are entry level.
Oh, most of them are entry level. Okay. All right, fine. I just wanted to know because I've done my master's in information science and technology. It would be completed by say June 8th or so. So, and after that, I wanted to enter. Like I got a lot of time now, say for 2 months, as you say, most of you, it's informed that, it will take some time, maybe 2 months to open up. I'm fine with it. But okay, my only worry is I'm not in an entry point. So I'm in somewhere else, like as a consultant at a senior consultant level, or at a level where it can be of a project manager. So I will go through your sites and let me find out. Thank you.
Yeah, and Sewell, most of the companies we work with that, and this afternoon you might want to join us at 5 o'clock. One of the recruiters from Vanguard's going to be joining us. Most of our companies that we work with do hire the whole threshold. A lot of the direct contacts we have are for university relations or university recruiting, but oftentimes they'll forward your resume on to other recruiters in their organization as well. So I would say, even though Handshake is predominantly geared for entry level, there are some opportunities that are for senior level people. So I would also take a look at Handshake as well. And that'll also let you know what kind of companies are invested in Temple students. Because companies who have hired our students in the past tend to want to continue to hire our students. So they build this relationship, and I think you might have good chances with some of those kind of companies.
Yeah, I have a limitation here that, I'm not a green card citizen. So, because I'll be in the F1 visa status. So this is one of the limitations for me, because wherever I apply, this is the same problem wherever I get it. This problem is, one thing is I'm at an experience level. I'm not in an entry point. And, okay, Handshake, you have anything? I'll just try to find that out and then apply for that. I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else have some questions for? Yes, Huta. You're muted though. You want to turn on your sound. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Huta. So I'm a physics graduate student. So I'm planning to graduate in August. I have a similar question as you. So I'm thinking to enter on like IT data science as a machine learning field. So currently I'm working on such kind of project in physics, as I'm not a computer science major. So I know most of these things about the field. I was curious, like what kind of position, like entry-level position you have some suggestion about that for me? And again, as Surya mentioned, I don't have that green card or citizenship also. I have question for both of you. You can like answer one by one in your hiring company, like.
Yeah, I can take that one first. So within Brooksource, we do hire data analysts, especially within our healthcare clients. From qualification standpoint, really, we do prefer computer science, information science, technology to be completely transparent. But for the most part, some of our managers are open to different degrees depending on the skill set. So we do have a data analyst position posted on Handshake on the Brooksource page, so definitely check that out. Some of the qualifications that we are looking for is some with experience working with large sets of data, as well as SQL experience. Normally when it comes to different positions that are open to different majors, as long as you kind of have some of those tools and technologies that they're looking for, they're pretty open to at least bring them in for an off those skills. So biggest advice around that, if you don't have that comp sci or IT major that they're looking for, definitely load up your resumes with the tools that you've utilized. Because at the end of the day, that's truly what a lot of managers, or at least hiring managers, are looking for.
Yeah, actually, I'm comfortable with Python and then these machine learning tools, everything, not with SQL.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and kind of bouncing off what Tyler had said, same thing with FAST, kind of mentioned it already, but really just looking for object-oriented programming skills. So SQL as well, C++, Java, Python does have some that we do look for. So it does not matter that you are not a computer science major. Definitely would still encourage you to check out the positions that we have available. We do have one that is our data warehouse and analytics consultant position. Sounds like that might be more up your route. So definitely would encourage you to go to our website and check that position out.
okay, sure. Thank you so much.
And Huda, one of the things that's always challenging for students like yourself who's in that transition from the academics to the industry space, although you know that you could learn these things very quickly, now might be a really great time to pick up the commercial skills that employers are looking for. You know, most of what you've done is a whole lot harder than SQL or R or
Yeah.
Python, right? You know, I mean, to you, those things are a piece of cake. The problem is employers are looking for that specifically. So even though your skill set might be well far and above, you almost have to come down a level commercial wise to pick up the skills they're seeking, you know, because, you know, that, and Taylor's right, you know, any kind of, and it goes back to one of the things Tyler said too, any kind of open source project, any kind of large scale commercial data set you might have worked on, you know, a data set from the city of Philadelphia or from, you know, an open data set on the COVID information, and then applied those commercial tools to it, now you'll have something to talk about in the interview that relates to what they're looking for.
Okay.
There's a translational problem between PhD information and commercial industry kind of information.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Taylor, I think you answered the question. Someone was looking for what specific technical skills Fast Enterprise is looking for.
Yep. Yeah, so object-oriented programming, and then we use SQL Server for the back end. So actually code in VB.NET. So if you're coming in with that, that's obviously going to be the best. But if you're not with VB.NET, it's not a big deal. I'm still looking for that Java, C++, C#, anything along those lines to come in with. Not necessarily that CS degree.
Any other questions from anyone else? Okay, Kelsey, I think you had a few questions that you were going to pose to the group.
Yeah, so I did, and then oddly enough, they were answered.
Okay.
But I think one maybe in particular would just be, you know, what do employers expect with virtual interviews from students? I know you talked a lot about the environment and preparation, but is there any other pieces that you want students to be thinking about?
For me, one other piece of information I think is, or thing to think about is the personality. It's really hard to kind of show off your personality if you're doing it over the phone or doing like a virtual interview, because again, you're not there yourself. You can't see the animation through your body language. So the biggest thing is kind of like, don't be afraid to show off that personality, because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of employers are looking for outside the technical skills. So don't be afraid to be a little bit of animated, kind of show off that personality a little bit, show what you're super excited what class or products you really enjoy taking, to give some of that energy to that recruiter or to that employer.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that as well, definitely to just remember to stay connected. So a lot of things are changing every day. So making sure that you're kind of following up with that recruiter and making sure that the timeline's still what it was expected. So if they say you'll hear back from us in 2 weeks, after it's that 2-week time frame, kind of reaching back out because it definitely is kind of chaotic right now, and there's not going to be a clear end at this point. So just staying in touch and following up and doing your due diligence to make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate one of the things that both of the recruiters have talked about. And way back when, I was a manager of corporate recruiting for a large company, so I know exactly what they're going through. And Tyler had mentioned that it's a good time now to get connected with people because the recruiters, if there's a hiring freeze on, may not be as busy as they normally are. So they might be willing to do an informational interview. They might be willing to correspond with you via email because they don't have 30 or 40, 50 open requisitions on their plate where people are yapping saying, quick, get me candidates, get me candidates, get me candidates. So they might actually have some time now to allow that connection to occur. What you want to be doing is being as prepared as possible. Tyler and Taylor, probably their favorite ways to communicate are LinkedIn, right? For you guys, you think LinkedIn's stalking them. To them, LinkedIn is their daily job. That's how they communicate with candidates. That's how they find people. So it's a great time to start looking, and kind of goes back to your question, Surya. It's a great time to find those companies you want to work with and that might be willing to hire you. And then use LinkedIn to connect to those companies and to connect to those recruiters. Because what's going to happen to recruiters, we're all very optimistic that in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, this is all going to open up. And then every single hiring manager that Tyler and Taylor have are going to say, get me candidates, get me candidates. And if they can say, oh, I talked to that person from Temple, they're perfect for you, the odds are they're going to pick up the phone and reach out to you because they remember that connection. So you want to be building those connections right now with both companies and recruiters within those companies so that when it all opens up, it makes their jobs easier. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
And I definitely would encourage LinkedIn as well to make sure that you're making sure your LinkedIn profile is as strong as it can be, because you're definitely going to get a lot more hits off of it than if you haven't updated it in a couple years or added additional skills that you've brought onto your resume, possibly added any groups that you're connected with on LinkedIn. Anything that's going to make you more marketable, definitely would encourage you to make sure your LinkedIn profile is as good as it can be.
Yeah, Rose, I was going to say that's a really, really good point about virtual networking. And I think this is the perfect time to do it. If you think about people working right now, they're not getting too much human interaction. So I think people would love the chance to talk to a student about their job. I think an easy way to do that is find a job or a company that you want to work for, then find someone on LinkedIn that has that job or is working from the company that also graduated from Temple. Having that same connection of going to the same school is just an easy introduction. Say like, hey, I graduated from Temple. I'm graduating with this major. I see you also went to Temple. And then have a simple line of like, I would love to set up a virtual interview just to learn a little bit more about your company, a little more about your role. Simple as that could go a long way.
Yes, and as Tyler said when he started, Temple alums want to hire Temple alums. And Taylor will tell you there's also a lot of Temple alums at Fast Enterprise.
There are.
So whenever you're going into a virtual interview, so let's say you get an interview with Taylor, next week, and you're going to do a virtual interview. The first thing I would do if I were you, besides connecting and following Fast Enterprise on LinkedIn, is I would go out to LinkedIn, and there are query options in LinkedIn where you can look for Temple alums who work at Fast Enterprise. Reach out to them, send them a message in LinkedIn. It's perfectly okay to say, I'm going to be interviewing with Tyler next week. I was wondering if you can provide me any information that would help me ace the interview. And they will be more than happy to tell you everything that you need. And if they made a good connection with you and maybe you even set up a little phone call with them, they will actually then reach out to Taylor and say, hey, I see next week you're meeting with Erin from Temple. Just wanted to let you know, I know them, they did a great job, blah, blah, blah. They were in my capstone class, blah, blah, blah. And immediately when Taylor starts her interview, she's going to feel that connection because you've built that. You know, she's not going to reach out and do that for you. You have to do that yourself. Questions from the group? Okay, I'll ask our recruiters if there isn't one, feel free. How does a typical virtual interview work? I mean, what can a student expect? How long are they? Do they talk to multiple people? What should they be prepared to answer? Are they going to get technical questions? Can you tell us a little more about what they can expect? Taylor, I'll start with you.
Sure. So it kind of depends on what stage of the interview process you're on. So if it's your first interview with us, right now we're doing all virtual, obviously. So instead of telephone interviews, now we're just doing everything virtually just to get to know you a little bit better. So the first call, you can just expect your typical interview. So I'm going to be asking about yourself, asking what you know about the company, what position are you looking at, and so on. Also asking behavioral questions as well as technical. So really nothing has changed with that part, rather than it just being face-to-face rather than over the telephone. And then we go, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so Taylor, what's your favorite behavioral-based interview question to ask?
Yeah, so we have one that's a little bit interesting, so I'll give you guys all a little cheat so you know it. So we ask one that, so they have you work at a department store, and a customer comes up to you asking where they can find buckets. Directing them to those buckets, they actually start explaining a situation on where they might actually use a bowl. They say they're having a party and they need something to put chips in. How do you persuade that customer from buying a bucket to then buying a bowl? So it's interesting to hear what students come up with and how they kind of persuade them towards that bucket rather than the bowl. Definitely looking for that communication and make it seem like it's the customer's idea rather than their idea to switch over to the bowl. But yeah, it's kind of fun, different ones that there's not a black and white answer, but gets to know them a little bit better as a person.
Oh, that's really cool. I interrupted you. You were going to talk about the next part of the interview after the phone screen.
Yeah, so then the next couple stages that we do have multiple people coming on those virtual interviews. So you would get to actually meet someone that would be in the position that you would be in once you come on board. So they kind of ask you questions, more technical questions, have you do a couple whiteboard answers, so more logic questions. Again, just seeing your thought process. We kind of outline it before the interview so you can kind of understand how it's going to work, making sure that you have paper and pen, making sure that you have a clear workspace, just so that you're ready to go and nothing really takes you off guard. But there's definitely, as you go throughout, there's going to be times where you're meeting more than just one person. And it's set up like this. Everyone's obviously not together, so it's going to be on multiple screens, talking to multiple people at the same time.
Interesting. Tyler, what are your virtual interviews like, start to finish? What can someone expect?
Yeah, so similar to Taylor, our original phone screens are pretty much the same. Company overview, go over the role and kind of go in the experience. Again, as I mentioned, we do all first round virtual interviews. So really what to expect for a Brooksource virtual interview, we'll do a deep dive on your skill set and your background. Most of us are recruiters here. We're not developers, so we won't go too deep in the technical skills, or we won't ask you to whiteboard, but we'll ask a lot of situational questions, ask about your classroom experience, what you're looking for in the role and opportunity, your next career move as well. And to dive into the nitty-gritty details about the role just to make sure it's a perfect fit for both parties.
Okay, very good. Tyler, students are often very concerned about whiteboard interviews, even if they're in person. How can they prepare for these whiteboard questions? Because, it's a little tricky now. What would you recommend? What have you seen students who have succeeded and done really well in those kind of questions and those that maybe struggled a bit? What seems to be the biggest thing that differentiates them?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing is asking your point of contact, the HR, the recruiter that's connecting with the hiring manager, what type of interview should I expect? So is it going to be more behavioral, or is it going to be whiteboard? If it is going to be more whiteboard interview, don't be afraid to ask, okay, what technology should I prepare for? Most technology that you'll be utilizing will be listed on the job description. So these are the technologies that you should probably prepare for. It's always hard to prepare for whiteboard. They're always a little bit different, but I would say utilize your network. As Rose mentioned, reach out to people on LinkedIn that are working in that company, that are from that graduated from Temple, or you have a connection to. Ask them a little insight, like, hey, what should I expect during this interview on this whiteboard exercise? Another thing is utilize the professor that you have at Temple. A lot of them are coming from the industries, may have been hiring managers themselves, so they've done whiteboard exercise themselves. I guarantee most professors will be excited to say, like, hey, would you mind running me through a mock interview that we're going through a whiteboard session? So you get a chance to utilize it yourself as well. And then the last thing is utilize the internet tools. There's a ton of different websites, YouTube videos, tutorials that will show you really how to inside of going through a whiteboard exercise if you haven't done it before, or tips and tricks to it as well. And then the last thing is just stay calm and relax. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking of getting an assignment. You're like, okay, what do I have to do? I have to figure this out. I know this. Just be calm, relax, take your time with it, because at the end of the day, they would rather see you spend a little extra time making sure you're kind of filling out the answers correctly than rather just rushing through it and it being an incorrect answer.
Taylor, how about you? Any other suggestions that you would provide to students going through this process?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything that Tyler just said. The other thing that I would add to it is get as much practice as you can. So there's definitely doing a quick Google search of logic questions or problems and bring them up, and then just practice and go through them, talking through it. The main point of a whiteboard question is to see your thought process and see you work through those different steps. So getting practice of talking through it and knowing kind of the flow, so that when maybe it's not the exact same answer that the recruiter is asking you in the interview, but it's something similar. And if you've done it enough times, those nerves are going to be a little less there, and hopefully you're able to get through those steps a lot faster and more successful.
Great.
So can I ask a quick question?
Oh, please.
So when you do those interview questions, do you want the exact solution, or you are looking for some way how I approach the problem?
I'm looking to see how you got to it. Not necessarily. We have times where people have gotten in position and they didn't get the correct answer on the logic or a whiteboard question. And the reason why they continued to get the position and didn't get passed on is because they never gave up. They were hardworking. You could see their thought process, and they look like they would be a good cultural fit. So it's not saying you need to get every single answer correct, but because by all means, we don't expect you to know everything, but we want to know that you're going to work through it and you're going to problem solve and ask the right questions. And obviously, like I said, talk through it, because consulting is, you're going to be able to talk and be comfortable with that.
I've seen experiences in the past where students who communicated effectively and got the wrong answer, theoretically wrong answer, were chosen over students who never said a word and got the quote unquote right answer. Because the reality today is everyone wants to hire people who work well with others. And communication is the vital piece of working well with others. So they really are not just assessing your technical skills, but your ability to work well with others.
Okay, I have one more quick question. It's different than the technical one. Yeah, I get a couple of calls from different company, and they ask me at last, what is your salary expectation, like that. So is it like a good idea to tell them the exact number, or say something like as company rule, something like that? What do you guys expect about that?
Yeah, I can answer on that. We definitely want you to give the number that you believe that you're worth. So I always encourage candidates to do research before the interview. See what someone coming out with your degree, talk to Kelsey and Rose and see what the average student is graduating and making when they graduate from Temple. And then that's a great baseline to go off of. Also do research. Glassdoor is a great tool that you can utilize. A lot of times you can see how much people are making in that position, and you can kind of go off that too. It's definitely never meant to eliminate you from the position. We just want to know what you believe you're worth and make sure that we're able to give you the offer that you're wanting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, similar to what Taylor said, we're very transparent when it comes to our salary standpoints because they're put on by our hiring managers. But whenever you may get a call from a recruiter, or you're working on a position or talking to a position that you may not have too much experience in, never be afraid to be like, hey, I'm looking for market rate, and then putting it back on the recruiter a little bit, saying, hey, what's this position offering for someone coming right out of college with their master's or bachelor's degree and XYZ degree?
Yeah, Kelsey and I always ask students who come and report back to us privately what their salary range is, because that helps us in answering students going forward. And we have general ballparks. There's also another website above what Taylor mentioned, which is salary.com. On there, you can also take a look, and salaries will differ based on lots of different things. You know, they're going to be based on geography. If you stay in this region or leave the region, they're going to be based on what kind of work you're going to be doing. You know, a QA position will pay different than a software developer position. You know, management or leadership positions can pay different than a software developer position. Companies vary, and the other thing that you want to look at when you're looking at your salary is what is typically referred to as the entire compensation package. You know, a salary at 55 with zero healthcare copay is really not a $55,000 salary. It's a lot more. A salary with a $60,000, a company with a $60,000 salary and a $2,000 a month healthcare pay is not a $60,000 salary. So you really need to be careful and weigh all of the different options, and you have to look at what's important to you and what motivates you. And again, you know, a company that maybe is going to pay for your master's, if your salary is lower, how much is that amount of money that you'll get for education, and is that important to you? If never getting your master's is important, then that might not be the right salary for what you want. So we always tell students, don't be black and white on salary. Look at the total compensation package and look at what's important to you. You know, if you're motivated by 22 days of PTO versus 12 days of PTO, you've got to calculate that into your whole package and look at what's important to you. You know, just don't go black and white with a number figure. It's not a good way to evaluate any one company. Any other questions from the group? Taylor, the question that our students come back to us all the time and ask us about interviews that scares them the most is the question, tell me about yourself. They're always terrified of that. What are you looking for when you ask that question?
Yeah, the one thing that I'm not looking for, which a lot of students end up doing, is reading down the resume. They just kind of read off of it and tell me everything that I've already read. So always tell candidates, I've already read it. That's why we're having this interview. Tell me stuff that's not on that resume, or expand on what's on the resume. Definitely don't need to go off on a tangent for 10 minutes, but you should definitely be able to talk about yourself for at least 2. So tell about your experience. Maybe you had a project that you did that you were super passionate about, and kind of mention a little bit, but also tell people, don't go too in depth on that project. If the interview has further questions, they can ask them throughout the interview. So touch on things that maybe you weren't able to fit on the resume, or stuff that you're involved in that you want to expand on the resume. But definitely don't just read down it. We've already read it. We know what's on it. We definitely think you're qualified enough, which is why we're interviewing you.
Tyler, what are you looking to hear?
Yeah, similar to what Taylor said, I think just explain the why and what makes you truly different as a candidate. Is it a special that you worked on? Is it an internship that you truly enjoyed? I'm really big in passion to show like what you're really excited about. So having at least one story in the back of your head to say like, hey, if they ask me this question, I'm going to talk about this specific experience and this specific background. One common mistake that I always hear from a lot of students, they go way too deep in their personal life, telling a little bit more about their family lives, their pet, their hamster growing up, their third grade teacher. Really, that's really great stuff. I'm sure it's awesome and whatnot, but really that's not what we're truly looking for. We want to find out from a technology standpoint, a professional development standpoint, what makes you the best candidate for this role.
Great. All right. Anyone else have any? You've got a captive audience here now. We've even gotten the super secret behavior question out of Taylor, which I'm so excited about. Anything else anyone wants to ask?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi. So in that, tell me about yourself. Do you also want me to like mention the skills I have, or is that meant for another question?
I can answer that one. Definitely you can tell the skills that you have. Like I said, you don't need to read off everything, but if there's a couple of skills that you're super strong with and want to highlight, by all means, say the skills that you are definitely wanting to use or utilize, or definitely is needed in the position that you're applying and interviewing for. It's definitely okay to highlight those.
And off of that, if you have a question like what skills to highlight, I know they teach you a lot over there at Temple, no matter what your major, look at the job description. If you have the interview, you mostly got the job description before that. So if in the job description, they say, I'm looking for a Python developer with experience with AWS, with JavaScript, find like 3 stories or like a story that you can highlight on all those 3 skills, because that's what the recruiter is most likely looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Tyler, Kelsey and I are so excited that you keep using the word stories, because that's exactly how we train our students on behavioral-based interview, is make sure you're going into that interview with 5 prepped stories that you can use. Very, very important. Some student feedback I'd give to students as well is skills don't just mean technical skills. They mean communication skills, leadership skills, teamwork, flexibility. Those are really hard to demonstrate on a resume. So one of the things that recruiters are looking for are talk about stories that not only demonstrate your hard skills, which is easy on your resume, you either know Java or you don't know Java, but talk about an experience where you showed strong leadership skills, which might not come across on your resume. If you were the president of ACM, or if you were the lead teacher in your school, if you volunteer with a group of 20 other people, 300 hours a month, those are the kind of stories that show your soft skills, which recruiters are very interested in along with your hard skills. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, off of Rose's point, if you think about any leadership, either your parents, a previous supervisor, a manager, one common skill is they know how to handle difficult situation. So when you're talking about these questions and new leadership skills, I think giving an example of like one time you worked in a group project and you had to handle like a difficult classmate, someone that wasn't keeping up with their work, and how did you handle those situations? It's really hard to show off your skill, like leadership skills. Like some people want to talk about themselves, but other people, it's a little bit uncomfortable to say like, hey, I did this before, I can do this. So to make it a little bit easier, talk about that difficult situation within that group or at work or previous experience, and how did you handle that? Because that's another way you can go around and say like, hey, this is how I was a leader within that project.
Sura, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. See, I actually, through LinkedIn, I got one of the connections, and then that was for some company in Pennsylvania. And they were asking for me from an SAP Finance point of view as a leader in SAP Finance, and as well as a project manager. So I got 2 job profiles in the same one. So they say, okay, for project management, we need your experience. And for SAP Finance, we need your experience. My question is, for the last, say, 10 years, I've been doing the project management to a certain extent from the SAP finance point of view. And then I've done that. Now, for me to prepare, like suppose, because I'm in the US for the first time, so I was earlier in Switzerland and Germany and all those places. But here in US, I got a particular question that if both of them are being sought for, one is for the SAP finance skill, which I have in plenty, and also a project management or a leadership skill that they're looking for. Now, both of them are well balanced for me. So the questions which I will be asked mostly, maybe what, like, is it more of a concoction or mix of these two? I just wanted from the both Tyler as well as Taylor as a consult, can you please? And through you, Rose, also, because you are quite experienced, so you'll be knowing even more. So it's for you, three of you, yep.
I'll leave it up to these guys. You can talk to me anytime. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and start it off. Definitely going to be looking. I mean, I can't speak for them, obviously, but me as a recruiter, I'd be looking for both. So definitely asking questions to look and see what your finance skills are like, as well as asking questions that are going to be narrowing down and seeing what your leadership skills are like. So it's definitely going to be a combination of both. It's not necessarily going to be one over the other. If the job description has both in it, they're definitely going to want to see both.
For me, I would say I think obviously both sides have helped you get to where you are today. So both are equally as important, but know your audience. If you are applying for a financial role or even an IT role in a financial based institution, then obviously, yeah, that's just going to be a great way to show off some more of your financial standpoints. It's really hard to pinpoint that you should do like 60% finance or 40% PM. I think it really depends on the role that you do apply for. But I think the best way to kind of figure out that ratio is just know your audience a little bit, what roles you're really applying for and how much of each should you take off or how much of each should you say. But again, both are probably equally as important. So definitely show off both.
Great.
Yeah, thank you both of you. Yep.
Yep. Well, I want to, if there are no other questions, I want to heartfully thank Tyler and Taylor for joining us today. Your information was great, guys. Kelsey and I always learn something new whenever we do these. So not only do our students learn, but we learn as well. So thank you. To everyone on the call, I want to reiterate that Kelsey and I are here to help you. We're still doing virtual resume reviews. We're doing virtual appointments. If you want, you can reach out to Kelsey and she'll do a virtual interview with you. She's not going to ask you technical questions, but she can go through all of the first level that both Taylor and Tyler were talking about. She'll actually set up a Zoom call and we'll set up a scenario where you are practicing a real interview. We're happy to do that for you. And again, we really want to stress that now's the time to be prepared. Make sure your LinkedIn's good, make sure that you're starting to build that network. And, you know, as soon as the hiring freezes start opening up, you're right in queue for hopefully that next opportunity. Guys, thank you again. Hopefully, students, you found this interesting. We will post it online probably sometime tomorrow when we get the link back, and feel free to share it with your students. And feel free to leave any comments in the chat message if you have any for us. We're going to do this again at 5 o'clock tonight with 2 different companies. And thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks, Tyler. Bye,
No
Taylor.
problem. Thanks.